Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Got a story about civil asset forfeiture in Texas. And this is the kind of question that a lot of people have been asking all along. When the police take your stuff from you, your money, your car, whatever it might be, and say, oh, it's civil asset forfeiture, but they don't charge you with the crime, how come the police are never charged with the crime of stealing? Because most people, if you ask a kid like in first grade, if I come up and take your stuff, what am I doing? Oh, you're stealing. Most people understand that. Well, interestingly now, a Texas sheriff is under investigation for routinely seizing cash from undocumented immigrants. But it's sort of civil asset forfeiture, except the lack of paperwork, which makes you wonder where the money's going. And we knew it would come to this, I think. TexasTribune.org ran the story written by Jolie McCullough. A rural sheriff near the Texas border is under criminal investigation for allegedly having his deputies illegally seize money and a truck from undocumented immigrants during traffic stops. Last month, investigators with the Texas Rangers and the AG's office in Texas raided 4 county sheriff's offices as part of an investigation into Sheriff Nathan Johnson. Not Nathan Johnson, Nathan Johnson. It's according to search warrants obtained this week by the Texas Tribune. The investigating Texas Ranger said that Johnson admitted to regularly seizing money from undocumented immigrants during traffic stops, even if they're not accused of any state crime, before handing them over to Border Patrol, who are the feds. So he says, according to this, yeah, we take their money and then we turn them over to the feds. Why wouldn't their money go with them? One sheriff's deputy told investigators that seizing currency from undocumented immigrants and the driver has been standard operating procedure for as long as he's been employed by that county sheriff's office. Texas Ranger Ricardo Gallardo wrote in the warrant requests that is what's going on. Now, that ranger accused Johnson of felony-level theft by a public servant and abuse of official capacity, alleging the sheriff's cash and vehicle seizures were in violation of the state's relatively lenient civil asset forfeiture laws. So, follow along now. Texas Rangers are saying, look, in Texas, civil asset forfeiture is real easy. And despite that, what he's doing violates the rules. So we've got lax rules, and this still violates the rules. Johnson did not respond to specific questions Monday, stating that his and the county attorneys are reviewing the affidavit that is in question here. In November, he told investigators that money and cars are sometimes held as evidence for potential crimes. After his offices were raided in December, he made a Facebook post saying he didn't know what prompted the investigation, had not been arrested, and would continue to serve his constituents. But again, that was in December. He said, especially in that last year, I have taken a strong stand against human smuggling, drug smuggling, and illegal alien traffic in our community, and will continue to do so. But you'll notice that that statement does not contain any reference to the money or the vehicle in question. It's unclear if charges have been or will be filed against Johnson. The Attorney General's office did not respond to questions Monday, and the Texas Department of Public Safety said it had no information to release at this time. The search warrants were executed at 2 sheriff's offices and 2 impound lots last month, looking for evidence that investigators believe would shore up a case against Johnson. The warrants include computers, cell phones, seized evidence regarding money or vehicles, financial statements, and other data going back to 2017 when Johnson took office. So, as you know, or may know, that if they get a search warrant, the way they get a search warrant is they file an affidavit and they show it to a judge and they say, here is why we think we should get a search warrant. And laid out in the affidavit are all kinds of statements and allegations. And someone's got to sign this and attest to it and swear to it under oath that this information in this affidavit is true and correct. And so what it appears to be based upon is statements made by people in this department about how they conducted business. So the county in question is home to about 3,400 residents. It's spelled R-E-A-L, like Real County, but I assume it's Riel. And is near but not on the border. It's about 100 miles northeast of Del Rio. Now, here's the point. In Texas, police can take cash and property believed to be related to criminal activity, even if the person involved is never charged with a crime. Such seizures, however, require a forfeiture process during which prosecutors must file a civil lawsuit against the property for police to keep it. And so that's already controversial, according to the news. And there are people out there who don't like this. They say, well, we should be allowed to just keep it. But they say, no, you got to file a lawsuit. Well, the point is that it appears that this county sheriff has been seizing cash and not running it through this process. And at that point, what's the difference between seizing it and stealing it? Johnson, however, told the investigator from the Texas Rangers that he did not initiate such proceedings, referring to the civil asset forfeiture lawsuits. Instead, in 2 instances, when the county was assisted by neighboring law enforcement agencies, the sheriff classified seized property as abandoned or labeled it as evidence for potential charges. Well, if it's evidence for potential charges, then charges should be brought. If charges are not brought, then it's not evidence for anything. It should be returned to its rightful owner. Likewise, is it abandoned if the people who had it taken from them against their will and they'd like to have it back? That's not what abandoned means. Aside from potential criminal charges, avoiding the state's forfeiture laws creates constitutional concerns and bad optics, according to the Institute for Justice, a legal organization against civil asset forfeiture who do great work. And they're oftentimes the people leading the charge here. And a lot of these stories that hit the news because the Institute for Justice is banging the drum on this, trying to get the word out. They do wonderful work. I love those people. So we'll talk more about them in the future. I might do an entire video on them, but we'll get to that. But this is bad optics, according to managing attorney for the Texas office of the Institute for Justice. And he said, if you're doing it outside the judicial process, you can see the perverse incentive that would exist. If you could seize these things, not go to court, seize it unilaterally, and then keep it in your budget, that is policing for profit with zero oversight. And we've talked about before how police agencies will often seize money knowing that somewhere down the road they'll get to keep a portion of it as a reward for seizing it. But that's after it goes through the process of forfeiture. And a lot of people, myself included, have pointed out that that gives them an incentive to just grab more money because they're getting rewarded for it. They get like a finder's fee for it. But what's crazier here is if you seize it and keep all of it, that's an even bigger reward. And I don't think I've got to be the one to break this news to you, but I think I will, just in case you didn't figure this out. This is one sheriff in one county in one state. Do you really believe this is the only instance of this out there? The one sheriff who went rogue and was doing the civil asset forfeitures without even bothering to go through the legal process and just calling the money abandoned or evidence and then just keeping it. Do you think this is the only instance of this out there? I'm just asking the question. Meanwhile, the Ranger began investigating Johnson in October after discussions with the Attorney General's office, the warrant said, and it focused on 2 traffic stops that came to light. Body camera footage of a traffic stop from May 2021, taken by a sheriff's deputy from a neighboring county, showed Johnson directing his deputies to seize money and a truck from undocumented immigrants. The seized money was to be filed as abandoned cash and deposited into the county general fund. Johnson said he would try to find the truck's registered owners, but after 30 days, the vehicle would also be considered abandoned. And again, this is the body camera footage of a neighboring county's deputies. Ask yourself this. Were not any of the sheriff's deputies from the county in question? Were they not wearing their body cameras? Were they? Were they turned on? And it does seem odd that this only comes to light when there's 2 different police agencies working in the same spot, and the other people have got their cameras on catching you doing something wrong. Why didn't your cameras catch that? During another traffic stop in October, more than $2,700 in cash was taken from 3 immigrants' wallets, was said to be marked as evidence while waiting to see if human smuggling charges against the driver would stick. The other 2 men were referred to Border Patrol, where they asked what had happened to the money from their wallets. So the first thing they said to the feds was, "Where's our money?" The ranger who's investigating this said the seizing deputy couldn't say under what authority the money was taken, just that Johnson told him to take it. So that's another problem. I think if you're a police officer and you go to some kind of police academy, or maybe you studied criminal law and law enforcement college or something, and you become a police officer and you're doing your job, and you know, generally speaking, what the laws are. There's speed limits for traffic, thou shalt not kill, that kind of thing. There are laws out there, right? And so when you're working for a sheriff and he says, oh, by the way, do this, and you go through that mental checklist and you go, I don't see what law this is. And you ask, what's the authority for doing this? And you're told, just take it. Just take it. That might be a problem also. When the ranger questioned Johnson about the October seizure, the sheriff said no legal forfeiture paperwork was filed in money seizures, but that money and vehicles were being held as evidence due to trafficking crimes. So days after the traffic stop, Johnson said he consulted with the local district attorney and was told he needed to initiate forfeiture proceedings after property seizures. So up until that point, he hadn't been doing any paperwork on this. And it seems odd to me that you could be the sheriff of a county and you're not aware of the fact that you should be doing paperwork for money you're seizing from people you come into contact with. Do you really not know that? I think paperwork is one of the big complaints that police have. So they must know that paperwork exists. Before then, the ranger had written to Johnson and said his office was seizing all currency, to include currency in possession of undocumented immigrants, before being released to the custody of the United States Border Patrol. So they would seize the people, take their money, and then turn them over to Border Patrol. But notice at the beginning it says his office was seizing all currency, to include currency in possession of undocumented immigrants, which implies that they also took currency from other people as well. That's the implication. I'm just pointing it out. So this is a problem, and this is one of those things that many of us have suspected all along, that with the way the system is, and everyone knows this is wrong. Everyone knows this is wrong. But the people who are doing it benefit from it, so they pretend that they don't know it's wrong. So they take people's money, they get to spend it with their department. So it's, hey, cool. Daiquiri machines, popcorn makers, right? We can throw parties and buy ourselves Super Bowl rings. That's what somebody else did. And everyone knows this is wrong. But they keep doing it because they're benefiting from it. And something like this, because it has that air about it, that it's just something that's not quite right, you really expect us to seize money from somebody that we're probably never going to see again, probably hasn't the ability to come back after the money, and you want us to report it and do paperwork on it? What? No. That's what we do for the crimes, where we have somebody in custody, we're going to charge them with something. The person we took the money from, we handed them off to the feds, they're never coming back. Who knows where they went? The feds have got them now. That money's not forfeited. It's abandoned. As many of you know, in fact, I'm going to ruin it for some of you. $100 bill right here. Okay? $100 bill right here. I'll put it right there for some odd reason. That bill's not abandoned. I know where it is. Many of my viewers know where it is. In fact, my viewers follow that bill and study it and spot it every day to make sure it's not lost. It's not abandoned. It's not in my pocket either, but it's not abandoned. It is mine. I know where it is. I safe keep it. And I have the ability to, if I chose, pick it up one day, take it out and spend it. It's my money. It's my money. The idea that you can take somebody and you suspect they're breaking the law, so you take their wallet off them, pull the cash out of it as evidence, and put their wallet back in their pocket. That's evidence. Person's never charged with a crime. Oh, now it's abandoned. It's not what abandoned means, okay? That's not how this works. We all know what's going on here. And so if this comes out to be as the allegations are, you've got a situation with a sheriff taking money from people, not doing the paperwork, and then when he's told to do the paperwork, says, oh, yeah, that was evidence, or abandoned, or one and then it became the other? Maybe? I don't know. So civil asset forfeiture is a problem. There are small steps being taken in some places, but the biggest problem, of course, is that the feds still do it and allow it. So you can do anything you want to take care of it in your state. As long as the feds are operating in your state, it's still going to be happening in your state. But from the TexasTribune.org, Texas sheriff under investigation for routinely seizing cash from undocumented immigrants. Jolie McCullough wrote it, sent to me by a whole bunch of people. Christian, Keith, Rick, Jason, Joel, Andrew, Paul, David, Matthew, Chris, and Carissa. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law.
If you tell a joke in the forest, but nobody laughs, was it a joke?